Being joined by Major Mohammed Ali Shah, who is a defense expert. Good morning, sir, and thank you for joining us on the broadcast. What do you make of this development about the fact that there may be changes to the Russian Ministry of Defense leadership?
Certainly earlier as well, President Putin had changed the the commander-in-chief who was heading the attack in Ukraine earlier as well. He had sacked him and he had replaced somebody else. So this, if you do not perform, means get the desired result, whatever is expected from you, the changes are yet to happen. They would happen for sure. And now when the Wagner chief, they say they've gone on a mutiny and they are not patriots, they are traitors. And he has said, no, we are patriots. And let me tell you, any mercenary, if you're getting any mercenary on return of money that they are going to fight with you and they're going to support you, you cannot trust their loyalty. They're only fighting for money. And tomorrow, somebody else pays them more, they'll go and join them. So there will be no principle, there'll be no loyalty, there'll be no trust over there. Now, because of that, now when the Russian defense ministry changes, there is going to be a shift in that. It's going to be, you can't keep doing that all the time. You can't, the hiring and firing is not the best policy all the time. So you cannot, for example, so similarly now when you change the chief or the defense ministry or somebody because they weren't able to perform, not personally not able to perform, but because this mutiny had happened and such things. Now the Wagner chief, the Wagner army would go to Belarus, to the neighboring country. They are very, very close to Moscow, in fact, but they will go to Belarus apparently. And President Putin has Mr. Alexander, Belarus, the exact situation of what had happened. Now, apparently, if you ask me, if I have to analyze it, I don't think a situation like this builds up overnight. Suddenly you wake up and say you stop following orders and you say there's mutiny. No. Or I disobey you. No. It is something which grows up over time. That's when if you have to ask me, I would say at least 2 months he would have shown signs of reluctance and giving different reports. When you do not want to fight, you would give a wrong report that we on the back front, the Ukraine is winning the war and Russia is not winning the war. So those kind of reports, I'm sure, would have come in, and I think those kind of reports were coming in. Just about a month, almost 2 months back, there was again big news of attack on President Putin's house, where a drone came and landed right at the flag post of the president of Russia, right on the president's palace. So the very fact was very, very alarming, because what happens is you do not really directly target the head of the state. That's normally not done. Normally, there's no hard and fast rule on that. It's nothing in writing, but it's not done. Now, when they are going to be different ways. Now the very fact is, Wagner thought that they have lost too many men in this, and the Russian army was only putting them as a shield forward. Because when you pay somebody, you feel you own them. You feel I have given them money, now they better perform. They better do this. So not everyone is going to be bend down ultimately for every way. Ultimately, they will draw a line somewhere. So now when the Wagner chief said that, okay, now we've lost too many people and we've run out of patience, this war is not ending. So of course, he backtracked very sadly. That should not have happened. And where's Ramzan Kadyrov, who was promoted to the rank of a lieutenant general when the war had started around that time, and a few days later, and who he had inducted his teenage son in this war as well. He said that they will teach him a lesson. They have very strongly condemned the whole fact about the Wagner army, so to say, if I may call them the army, backtracking. So it is indeed it is a challenge for Russia, but not that big a challenge. They will cooperate. But the golden thing to see over here is, will Russian army go ahead and fight the Wagner? That's the golden thing to see. And I do not see it happen again personally. I don't think the Russian army is going to get entangled with the Wagners. They are already entangled with the Ukrainians, who are aided by the West, by US and UK. So now it's a wait and watch situation for Russia. What President Putin is going to do in the next step.
Indeed, speaking of the Russian army, sources are stating that the negotiations underline major changes to the Russian Defense Ministry's leadership. There are chances of the defense minister as well as the chief of the army staff changing. This is news according to sources. Do you think this will have an impact on the Russian army troops fighting in the war with Ukraine?
Oh, most certainly. It does affect the morale of the troops who are fighting there on ground when they hear their top commanders, it has been happening. It does certainly affect the morale. And as I said earlier, hiring and firing is not the best policy always. I mean, it is something which they have to look into. And when we talk about negotiation, I don't know what negotiations are left with people who have backtracked, who've shown their back towards you. In the Indian Army, I'll give you an example. For cowardice, if you show fear in the battlefield, you are liable to get shot by your own troops. So that is because fear is contagious, backtracking is contagious. If one person says, I will not fight, your own troops, not the military police, your own troops can legally, officially fire at you and get you down. Because then if one person backtracks, then it's contagious. The fear and panic spreads in the troops. That's why to avoid that, it's there. Now the very fact is the change of the defense minister chief of the army staff. Well, President Putin has changed the top hierarchy during the war earlier as well, and most certainly it does affect the plan, the morale, and the intention that they all had together.
Indeed, Major Shah. Those were rather insightful comments over there.